Dawn, good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. Wanted to address some of the questions you had in regards to Dr. Fiddle's office and in regards to the purchasing of the hospital. So let's go ahead and get started. So, does the practice generate enough cash to cover its current obligations? So, Dr. Fiddle's practice does generate enough cash based on the 2014 income statement. Based on the liquidity or the quick or acid test, it shows that the practice is being able to cover its current obligations at 1.1 times in 2014. Also, Dr. Fiddle took a voluntary pay cut in 2014 to improve the practice's profitability before the sale. Lastly, the current ratio of 1.42 times in 2014 shows the firm's ability to meet current obligations and is also known as the working capital. Your second question was, is the practice likely to be able to meet its long-term obligations as they become due? So the data from the 2014 financial statements show that the company is unlikely to meet that in its long-term liability. The solvency ratio analysis is used to understand if a company will meet the long-term obligation. So when Dr. Fiddle's practice was unable to meet their long-term obligations in 2014, their debt to total assets in 2014 was 96%, and that shows how much leverage the firm uses to finance those assets. The times interest earns ratio was 1.19 times, which gives management the ability to cover its debt services from operational cash flows. Okay. So, is the practice increasing its patient encounters and collecting its accounts receivable in a timely manner? So, Dr. Phil's office is not increasing because in 2013 they had 336,000 of patient service revenue, and in 2014 only 310,000. In 2014, the trend was not as good as it was in 2013 for the asset management ratio. 2014 it was 89.10 days for the average collection period, and then in 2013 it was 60.84 days in the average collection period. This information shows that the doctor office is not collecting its accounts receivable in a timely manner. The average collection period is a management critique ratio that shows the collection practice's effectiveness as opposed to contractual terms, right? So examples could be 2 by 10 or net 30, right? So, what is the practice's net worth or equity? And is it improving? Is the practice improving its profitability on a sustainable basis? This is going to be a two-parter here, okay? So in 2014, the balance sheet shows a net worth of 198,451, and in 13, it shows a net worth of 170,560. This is an increase from 2013 to 2014 of 18,891. Don's visit states that Dr. Fiddle's large non-operating gain in 2014 was caused by a one-time insurance distribution by the FDIC from a failed bank they used. Okay, so Dr. Fiddle's practice increased its profitability from 2013 to 2014. This shows growth from the practice and shows potential to continue to grow into the next year for 2015 with this trend. Now, tied to this, the inventory turnover ratio of 10.30 times shows the number of times inventory exhausts itself in a year and depicts management's use of available cash. Okay. The fixed assets turnover in 2014 at 6.49 times says what level of fixed assets are necessary to produce the revenue. Total asset turnover of 1.64 times shows total assets required to produce $1 in revenues, which is more broad in terms of the fixed asset above. The profit margin on revenue ratio in 2014 of 0.17% is a power ratio. This shows the earning power of the firm to generate cash flow from operations. This also gives the analysis a look at the amount of $1 in sales that is brought to the bottom line, which is less than 1 cent in Fiddle's firm. Return on total assets at 0.27% is the income generated to the bottom line on the usage of assets. and is used in comparison with benchmarks with comparable firms, right? We need to compare to see if this is something that's feasible. Now, the return on equity of 6.3% is a ratio that is used to gauge the amount of income that the stakeholders' investment can generate, right? That's key. Shareholders use this information to determine if the return is sufficient enough to continue investing in this firm. And what that does, that's going to transition us into what's next is how might the hospital's acquisition of Dr. Fiddle's practice impact the future financial performance of the practice itself. Okay, so the location of Dr. Fiddle's practice is perfect in that it has made it successful and the hospital as well. Dr. Fiddle has sent over 250 people to Stronger Memorial Hospital for inpatient services and 1,100 for outpatient services. Since Dr. Fiddle is a sole proprietorship, they own all the debt and liabilities of the practice. The acquisition would take it from a sole proprietorship to an organization. This, in turn, the practice and the hospital will potentially become more profitable by leveraging the hospital's accounting staff. The hospital could rent the space out and build gains from it, right? So, lastly, here is all factors considered. Do you think it's a good idea for the hospital to acquire the practice? Why or why not? So, you're asking me this, and based off the quantitative and qualitative factors, and have determined the purchasing of Fiddle's practice will benefit Stronger Hospital. Stronger Hospital accounting staff can assist with the day-to-day operations, which gives Dr. Fiddle the ability to work on her research and her own patients. Dr. Fiddle staying as a doctor for her facility and renting out the space for an additional doctor, this gives Stronger Memorial Hospital could gain additional inpatient outpatient service because we're going to be sending more over, right? It's so close. Now, they could also benefit from the value of the land and the space and building. That's why I believe these are good ideas for the hospital to acquire the practice. So now that I've gone over that information, please let me know if you have any additional questions, and then we can go from there. Thanks, Don.